Legislation Committee will now come to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderman Muhammad,
Present.
Alderman Narayan,
Present.
Alderman Clark Hubbard,
Present.
Chairwoman Ingracia,
Present.
Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Jeffrey Boyd. With that, Madam Chairman, you have a quorum of 5 members.
Thank you. First up, we have Alderman Vaccaro with Board Bill 12.
Yes. And excuse me, my voice, that's the good news. I won't be able to talk much, but I do have Lou here just in case. It's really a simple board bill. What it says, if you're going down, if you're going to go get your license plates for your car or anything, it requires that you go, and I brought him here, Greg Daly's office, you have to show that you paid your taxes. All this simply says is that if a candidate would stop up at Greg Daly's office, he would provide a sheet of no taxes due that you would put with your affidavit when you file for office. The way it is now, they sign it, and in order to get somebody off the ballot, you have to hire an attorney, you have to go to court to prove that the person shouldn't be on the ballot. This is just, we're not adding any extra burden. All this simply says is they should go get proof of no taxes paid, which Greg Daly's office is willing to do, and attach it to the affidavit. Because if it's simply just signing an affidavit, then I can't wait to get my next license plates. Even if I forget to pay my taxes, I can go down and just sign it and say, oh yeah, no, I'm cool. It's all good. So, you know, it's just simple. It's not asking a candidate to do, it puts the burden on the candidate just to show simply that they do meet the requirements. And the bill that, I know we're not discussing it in a second, but Bill 27 simply asks the Board of Elections to post on their website, shouldn't cost them any additional money, the requirements of what it takes to be, you know, on a ballot. So other than that, I'm open to any questions, Madam Chairman, and thank you for hearing my bill so quick.
Alderman Boyd, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Alderman Muhammad?
No questions, Madam Chairwoman. Breaking legislation. Mr. Clerk, can you add me as a co-sponsor?
Acknowledged, okay.
And if anybody else would like to be a co-sponsor, I'd be more than happy to put names on. And thank you,
Alderman
Muhammad.
Ryan?
Do you anticipate any additional costs for the city as a result of Board Bill 12?
No. Simply go up and just say, hey, I just need and Greg's office has already agreed. All I gotta do is look up, I could do that today. Right now, if you filed for office and you signed an affidavit saying you paid your taxes, it's a public record. I can go to Greg Daly's office and show that you didn't and you're a liar. I still can't get you off. I gotta go now, hire an attorney, and it's happened, well, with Tom Villa in particular, but it's happened, then I gotta go hire an attorney, I gotta go to court and prove, and then I gotta get a court order to have your name removed from the ballot. This is just one little simple thing. It just says, and I'm sure you paid your taxes, but it just says, all you can stop up, get however he does it, of no taxes due, and you just attach it to the affidavit. It's pretty simple, it's no cost, and it's not that hard to do.
And it wouldn't cost the candidate any money either?
Nope.
So no additional bar?
No.
Okay.
No additional fees.
That's all I have.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Vaccaro, did you speak to anybody at the Board of Elections about this bill?
I did actually to Gary, who's here. Where was that? I did. I spoke to Gary. He asked me what was contained in the bill.
Okay. So,
I didn't seem to have a problem with it.
okay. Is it, I guess, something that you're trying to address besides taxes?
Oh, it's,
Residency?
no, actually, that's something we would have to get into in a whole different bill. This is just simply that that your taxes are paid, which is required by the city and the state. Right now, we're just signing an affidavit saying we did it. And when you, again, go down to the DMV to get your plates, they're not going to let you sign an affidavit and walk away. You're going to have to show you paid that, and it's just that simple.
Okay.
And that's all this does. It just addresses that issue.
Okay. Mr. Stoffer, Mr. Capizzi, would you mind coming up and letting us know if you have any thoughts or concerns?
Thank you. Steve, you're welcome to step forward as well. We have no objection to, I'm sorry, identify.
Just identify yourself.
I'm sorry, I'm Gary Stoff, and I'm the Republican Director of Elections for the City of St. Louis. So we have no objection to any proposal that would shore up the filing process, and we have no objection if that includes making sure that your water and trash bills are paid as well. I mean, it seems to me everyone should be abiding by that anyway. Our concerns, or at least our questions are. So it's unclear to me whether at the time of filing, when the candidate files his or her affidavit and they provide proof of no delinquency, does that mean, for example, that someone like yourselves and Alderman Joe, people who run in the municipal primary, where filing opens 100 days before the primary election. So filing opens typically around the time of the Monday after Thanksgiving. Taxes generally are not due, or at least they're not delinquent, until 12/31. So does that mean that a candidate has to sort of prepay, which is okay with us?
No.
I mean, we don't care one way or the other. But I can envision a candidate can, in good conscience, on 11/26, 11/27, up until 12/31, sign an affidavit and provide proof that taxes are paid up to a certain point. But then come 12/31, if they have not paid personal property, real estate, earnings taxes may not be due 12/31, and even your water and sewer bill, depending upon the cycle of billing, you might be current at that time, but between the date you file and the date that filing closes, potentially there's a delinquency. And so I would hope that the bill would be clarified to address that. And then the other concern we have is requires the election board to take affirmative steps to ensure that individuals who do not meet the requirements of this ordinance are not allowed to file. I don't know what that means. We're an administrative body, we're not an enforcement body. And so when someone walks in, and again, we're all in favor of everybody. I mean, I pay my taxes, you pay yours, so we're all in favor of a candidate who comes in not being delinquent in their taxes or in any other payments that are due to the city. What I'm not sure about is what additional responsibility, if any, does that impose on us? Under the current ordinance, there is a grace period provision such that if someone files and then later after filing another candidate or anyone sends us information that says Gary Stoff is delinquent in the payment of his taxes, then there's a mechanism where we notify the candidate, and this is under the current ordinance, and they have a 7-day period to correct the delinquency or show us proof that the accusation is incorrect. That's not in this proposal, which is okay. So what I'm trying to get clarification on is what affirmative steps is the board asking us to take to ensure that candidates are in fact current, at least not delinquent. One comment on, if I may, on Board Bill 27. We have no objection to doing what we're currently doing.
Yeah, I think if it's okay, we'll
Oh, okay.
We'll deal with 12 and
Oh,
then...
that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll address those.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Gary.
So, yes, all it says, and it's simple, that the day you file, you show proof. You don't have to prove that next year, the year after, 5 years from now, while you're sitting. It doesn't say if you didn't file, you know. All it says is on the day you file, you should show proof that on that day, we're not talking about the future. This doesn't address the future. It doesn't say that next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, if you don't pay. All it simply says is that when you file, you get this, that on that day, you're current on your taxes. It's simple. It's not that difficult. I'm not asking a lot. I'm just saying, and this came up in the last election and was on the news, you know, and it's just a simple thing. You know, if on that day when you file, you're just showing proof that you're 100% current on your taxes, doesn't address the future. No bill can address the future. No bill can address whether or not you would go bankrupt, what the great giant money that we get paid here. Nothing can predict the future. It's a simple bill. And the simple answer is on the day you file, you're just attaching that. I'm not asking the Board of Elections to do anything extraordinary. I'm not asking them to investigate. All I'm simply saying is it's just one more step when you file to just show that on that day that your taxes are current. The other question was, Gary, you may have to remind me, I'm sorry.
Well, it says we have to take affirmative steps to ensure.
Sure. Well, so yes. So if someone comes in and they can't provide or that they don't have a current tax, then I'm asking the Board of Elections to say then they're not qualified at that time. It simply says you should show you're qualified. And again, and I like using the license plates. If I go down and I want to get my plates, they're not going to give them to me unless I show that I've paid my taxes, that all my taxes are due up. This isn't that hard of a bill. I'm not even asking that big of an ask. In fact, if you ask me, the bill's weak. You know, we should be asking way more than this, but I think it's the simple first step that we should take, and I would ask for a favorable recommendation from this committee to get it out to the full floor, and if they want to debate it out there, that would be wonderful. And again, after Gary's had a chance to talk, does anyone have questions of me, or I would assume our Gary, either one?
Alderman Boyd?
Sure, I'll do a follow-up. And I'm in favor of this, but like you just said, it is a little weak because maybe we could make it a little stronger. So a person files on the last day, let's say it's January the 6th, and they haven't paid their the prior year taxes, then what?
If they can, even if they file on February 10th, so far out of any tax season, all they got to do, they go up, Greg's going to put together a form.
I'm sorry. Let me clear myself.
Okay.
I didn't state that correctly.
I'm
so
sorry.
let's say I filed on December the 12th.
Right.
But then I didn't pay my 2018 at all. And here it is, February the 20th. Still, technically, I shouldn't be on the ballot because I have outstanding taxes, correct?
Right. If your taxes, say you're in the current tax year, so you haven't paid them taxes yet, they're not anticipated you're going to pay, their office then would issue, as of that day,
Right.
you have no tax obligation to the city. Again, it doesn't deal with the future.
Okay, so you're not concerned about, it's just more so the day they file.
The day you file,
Okay.
you should be current.
Gotcha.
And-
I'm with you. Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask the Collector of Revenue a question.
Sure.
I know he wasn't expecting this, but he's here.
He's a good speaker, though.
I'm curious, in your office, you know, people,
Alderman Boyd, can you
I'm
just
sorry.
state your name?
My name is
for the
Greg Daly. I'm the Collector of Revenue for the City of St. Louis.
right, in your office, you know, people have LLCs, right? And when you want to renew your business, you have to go up and, can your computers cross-reference an LLC by social security number at all? Can't?
No.
Okay. All right. So the reason I asked that question is because some people own businesses and they're not paying their taxes, you know, to the city. And
That
so,
would be a state function
Yeah.
that deals with the LLCs. So if I could just go, Madam Chairman, can I address this question a little bit further? Alderman, one of the things that are in this bill is that when we can address it a couple of different ways. I think what you were alluding to is that I think for a municipal or for an election that's going to be in March, we're filing in December. The last day is, I think, probably in December. So Alderman Vaccaro has indicated that it could be specifically for that time frame. If you and if the committee wanted to entertain some type of an amendment that would indicate that if an individual files, then he specifically on that day that his taxes were due, but your personal property and your real estate taxes aren't due until December the 31st. Okay, we could give, or we could initiate some type of grace period of 10, 15 days. We do that anyway. When people mail in, everybody mails in their taxes on the last day. So there's always a little bit of a grace period there because you can never depend on the mail completely. So if there was a 10-day, 15-day grace period that candidate would be then current on last year, the entire year's tax filing, we could certainly do that too.
I would think that might overcomplicate it too, though. I just wanted to make it, when you file that day, and we can come back in the future and amend this whole ordinance. I thought if we kept it fairly simple, we'd be able to get this through and out to the floor and, and again, there may be floor substitutes to this, but I'd really like to get it out to the full floor.
Can I ask one question? Sure. I mean, just for clarification, and Greg has...
Hang on, I
I'm
need
sorry.
to come to the microphone.
So Gary Stoff again, and Collector Daly has really properly identified the concern that I was trying to raise before. So let's take the next municipal is going to be in 2021. So filing for that is going to open around November 26, 2020. And if past practice is any indication, most candidates, at least most incumbents, are probably going to file on the first day. So they can file their affidavit and they can provide proof that their taxes are paid through 2019 because they're not delinquent with respect to 2020 until 12/31. So if there was something like the collector was suggesting, some kind of, I guess the question comes, so it gets to be 12/31, now potentially delinquency occurs, but as far as we know, candidate A, who filed on November 26 and filed proof that his taxes were paid through 2019, as far as we're concerned, he stays on the ballot. Unless there's some mechanism that says, that was true on November 26. Now here it is January 2nd. It's no longer true, which also addresses, I think, what you were. So again, we're not opposed to the concept. I just want clarification that on the date of filing, we can accept an affidavit and proof that says your taxes are paid and not delinquent as of the date of filing, even though there might be a post-filing date when taxes might still be due and owing.
Since I still have the floor, since you stepped up, you made a statement, Gary, about you guys are just administrators, right?
Correct.
So, but when we file, we have to provide a check for X percent, 10%?
1% of your salary.
1% of salary. So if we go to file and we don't give you a check, will you still allow us to file?
You have to do one of two things, and your current ordinance covers this now. You either have to have prepaid to the treasurer of your Democrat Central Committee and bring us a receipt, or we are allowed to accept your payment, which we then hand off to the treasurer of your committee.
Right.
I mean,
Just like you accept the no tax due letter.
Right, and we're happy to do that. I'm
Okay.
just saying, if someone files prior to a deadline for a tax payment, and they submit proof that their taxes up to that point in time are paid, is that going to be sufficient
Gotcha.
if that other deadline occurs? So,
And the problem I would have, if we don't do it this way, then you can't, you know, how do you tell somebody you can't file until blah? Plus, they're not going to investigate if that, after they show their proof of no taxes paid.
No
Any one of
taxes
us
due?
can go to Greg Daly's office, and if
tax-
it's,
I just
no
wanna be-
taxes due, I'm sorry.
Okay,
If that were the case, any one of us, I can go today and see if your taxes are paid. You know, it's public record. But if you feel somebody running against you may have been current that day, but they're not then you're going to have to go through the process that really is now. You're going to have to go hire an attorney. They're going to have to prove that they didn't pay. The way it stands right now, if they haven't paid their taxes, you're going to have to get an attorney, you're going to have to get a court order to get their name off the ballot. At least we know as of that date they filed, they're paid. And if in the future they don't pay, then we can deal with it. But this is why it's so simple. We're not trying to predict the future or do anything else. We're just saying, and for instance, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let's just say I have a car that's been parked in my driveway, and I just forgot about it. In fact, you know, I didn't pay taxes on it because I forgot. At least when I go to Greg Daly's office, they're going to say, hey, Joe, you got a problem. So what's the problem? Well, you didn't pay on that car that's sitting in your driveway. Then I can make arrangements and pay and say, and then I'm not embarrassed by some news media thing that says, I forgot about a car in my driveway. I simply pay that while I'm there so that I can get this, that show that I'm current as of that minute. That's what, and I've talked to different aldermen on this. This is so simple. It's not, again, it's not looking for anything difficult. Just
okay, I've got a
get
couple
there.
of quick questions for you also.
Sure.
For the candidate filing, no taxes due on water and refuse, how do you see that looking for somebody who's a renter?
Well, and then, you know, that's going to be a whole different ordinance in the future. But if you don't owe for trash and you don't owe for water because you rent, then it'll show you have no taxes due.
That's something that, Mr. Daly, your office is able to determine?
Well, how could you wouldn't be paying tax? Well, I'll let him answer, but if I'm renting and I'm not the one obligated to pay for the trash and water, and my landlord pays, the bill's going to him, so it's going to show that I don't
guess I'm
owe
just
that.
asking what the document looks like. I mean, obviously, you have a paid receipt for your personal property taxes. I'm wondering what it looks like for a renter, what the document looks like that goes over to the Board of Elections for them to figure.
It'd be the same one, because if you don't owe property tax, and if you don't owe a water bill, and if you don't owe a trash bill, then your taxes are paid. You just don't owe it. So it's going to be the same thing. It's just a simple thing they're putting together. It's not going to show what you paid. It just simply says that your taxes are current as of that particular minute.
Okay, and Mr. Daly, your office is able to send something along on all of those items?
I would think the plan of attack would be is that the Board of Election and the Collector of Revenue would come together to establish some type of a form where we, as the collector of revenue and the Board of Election, could agree upon, we would give the candidate, that would be a no tax due statement, where they could bring it over to the Board of Election. So it would all be one formalized type of form. So there wouldn't be, I'm signing off or something like that. It would just be, some prior approved paperwork that would be established by the collector of revenue and the Board of Elections.
Okay, but with specificity, you can determine how to make sure that water and refuse is included for renters. And what about state taxes?
State taxes? We have nothing to do with state taxes.
Okay, so you're not concerned about, because part of the affidavit now is also that,
You're still going to be signing an affidavit.
but you're not worried about covering if people owe state
Well,
taxes?
we can't go with the state, but you're still going to be signing an affidavit that you don't owe any taxes, and it's still going to be up to a candidate running against someone, that if they want to investigate that. This just says your taxes are paid. Now, yeah, we can't go to state taxes, and we can't predict the future. And you're still going to be signing an affidavit that says
Okay.
everything's current,
I
at
got
least
it.
to the best that we can.
Thank you. Mr. Stoff, can you come back up here for a moment?
Consulting with your counsel.
Thank you. I wanted to touch again on the administrative versus investigatory capacity that, your office either has or doesn't have.
Sure.
Because in this board bill, it states specifically if there is an assertion that somebody is delinquent on taxes, that a written complaint get filed, and it says you shall investigate such potential candidate, and it goes on from there. What happens currently if somebody files a complaint?
So currently, if there's a complaint, if somebody brings to our attention a potential candidate delinquency, then we send notice to the candidate that we've been alerted about XYZ, and then under the current ordinance, the candidate has a 7-day period from the date we give them notice to either bring us proof that the allegation is not true, or to go ahead and pay whatever and bring us a receipt evidencing that they are now current. Now, under the proposal, there's no comparable mechanism. I'm not necessarily advocating that. I'm just looking for clarification. But you're amending Section 1, which is fine. You're not amending Section 2, which is also fine. But Section 2, which deals with MEC fines and penalties, is still in place. And if someone would bring to our attention that a particular candidate has outstanding fines and penalties due to the MEC, that 7-day mechanism does apply to that. It does not apply. Currently, it would apply to taxes as well. Under the proposal, there's no comparable mechanism. Again, I'm not pushing that. Whatever the sponsors and the board wants are fine. I'm just looking for clarification that on the day of filing, that we're only limited or we're only bound to verify that they are current through the date of filing. And that we have no additional responsibility to do any post-filing follow-up, because I don't think the bill currently addresses that.
Right. In your experience, do election boards investigate complaints, or is that something that's typically handled by the courts in terms of disqualification?
Well, in terms of this issue, which are taxes, if someone brings to our attention, now what we do is, like I said, there's that 7-day notice grace period. So if we had that a couple of those this current cycle, and so if someone says President Reed is delinquent with respect to XYZ, we send notice to candidate Reed. It's been brought to our attention that you have outstanding taxes. You have 7 days to correct those, which in fact occurred. So, at the risk of harping, in this instance, if someone files on November 26, and their taxes are current as of that moment, but they've not yet paid taxes that are due 12/31, they are at that point not delinquent.
Okay. Do you feel like there's some language that could be added to make this clear, to make it clear, better for you guys to figure out when something happens at the Board of Elections?
Well, and based on this and what Alderman Vaccaro said. It would be our understanding that as of the date of filing, we're only looking for verification that taxes are not delinquent as of that date. We're not doing anything post-date of filing. Now, if the board is interested in addressing that as well, that's okay, as long as we have some clear understanding what our responsibility is. And I was talking to your counsel, but I thought I overheard the collector suggesting we could cooperate, which we're happy to do. I just want to be sure what our responsibility is if this bill passes.
Okay. Alderman Boyd, do you have any follow-up questions?
I don't. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alderman Mohammed?
No questions.
Alderman Ryan?
Yeah, just one quick question for you. So in the instance that we've been discussing where on the date of filing, you were current on taxes,
Right.
and then you became delinquent, in this legislation, is there anything, if someone were to make a complaint to the Board of Elections saying
Well-
candidate X is delinquent now,
So, yes, no, you can do that. You can do that anytime. But that's your only option right now. Because right now, all I got to do is just go, yeah, no, I paid my taxes, and that's it. Then it's up to you to figure out whether I paid them or not. It's up to you to get a court order to get my name taken off a ballot. You're going to have to go, because the Board of Elections will not take you off the ballot. I understand what Gary's saying. They will not take you off the ballot. You're going to have to get an attorney. You're going to have to go to court. You're going to have to get a court order to have that name removed. And all that is still the case. If at any point, they're still signing that affidavit. That affidavit says my taxes are paid. All I'm asking is that the candidate, as a candidate, that we just show that as of the day we're filing, our taxes are paid.
So it seems to me, I may be mistaken here, I'm just kind of reading this now, that we're potentially doing away with the mechanism to cure a deficiency.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're saying that on the day you file, keeping in mind you have so many days that filing is open, the day you file, your taxes are paid. Now, in the case of where you file in March for a September election, yeah, things could change, but then you're going to have to go through the whole process again because you'll check, oh, wait, he didn't pay his taxes.
If I could interrupt really quickly, I think what you meant was the 7 days.
Yes.
I understand that, but if your taxes aren't paid the day you go up there,
So is there a reason to repeal that section of this that you had in mind?
when it's not being repealed because say filing is March the 1st. You got 30 days. Go up there and file. You know, if you file on the last day and you sign an affidavit, then your name's on a ballot, then we got to challenge it, then you're going to have to go to court. This is simple. I mean, if I can tell you right now, this is simple. When you file your taxes, just show proof of your taxes. It's not repealing anything. It's not getting rid of anything. It's just adding one simple layer. And you still have to sign that affidavit. And if a candidate sees that you didn't in the future, yeah, you still got to go through notifying. You still have whatever mechanisms are in place that are in place. This is just simply says, on the day that you go file, your taxes should be paid.
So is there a reason that you're not seeking to simply add that section rather than replacing the section?
So how do you add it? You say, okay, well then you got 7 days to bring the letter in. So then what? Then you file and hope they show back in 7 days?
No, so my question would be, so you show up on the date of filing with
Right.
with your slip from
Sure.
Mr. Daly's office showing that you're current. Now, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, you become deficient.
Right.
Someone makes a complaint that your taxes are
You
deficient,
would still do the same process.
but potentially repealing Section 1 that lays out that process.
Because what we're asking is your taxes are paid. I think you still have that option. If you want to add that back in, you can, but this is simply saying your taxes are paid.
I like the idea of it. I'm just concerned about some of the nitty-gritty of it.
I would ask that if you want that back in, that, and I would entertain and be fine with it, but I'd like to pass it out of here. And if you want to do a floor substitute, I would be more than happy to be willing to work on that floor substitute. I don't know how you add that, but you would have to sit down with our attorney and figure that out. But my thing is I'd like to get it so that we start moving forward with this. And then we can make whatever amendments that, if you want to make that and add that, I'm just trying to keep it as simple as just going to get my driver's license.
Sure.
As simple as, because why can't I have my plates if I sign an affidavit that says, I paid it, and I'll come back 7 days from now and prove it.
I think we're misunderstanding each other.
We might.
Because like I said, I support the proposal. My concern is that after a candidate would file for office, while they were up to date on taxes, with the slip that Mr. Daly's office would be providing, a later delinquency in taxes, which was complained about by someone, we're potentially repealing the mechanism to cure that deficiency without taking the matter to court. So you would essentially have to then take the matter to court.
You have to now.
Well, the candidate has
They're not going to take his name off the ballot.
Well, so right now, the way that the legislation is right now, a candidate has 7 days to remit outstanding taxes or fees owed to the city after a complaint is brought. But we would be repealing that section.
But you wouldn't even need that if the day you file, you show your taxes are paid.
But taxes can come due after the date of filing.
I understand. Then it would be up to whoever to file a complaint.
So once that complaint is filed, then what happens?
Well, if it's like in the past, because if right now you go in and sign that affidavit, you can call the Board of Elections, and I wish Tom Villa was here or Matt Villa was here. You can, and they'll tell the person they got 7 days. In order to get that name off the ballot, you have to get a court order.
Sure.
Because they do not investigate, and nor are they required to investigate. So this doesn't add any burden to anybody other than the candidate filing, and it isn't much of a burden.
Alderman, in your bill, I mean, it explicitly states the Board of Election Commissioners shall investigate ... I think we're all supportive of the idea, and I think we can probably pretty quickly get some language that clears it up. So if you would be so kind as to just work with Gary Stoff and Steve Capizzi, and we can hear this again next week, I think it would be great to get it right before we bring it to the floor, and I'd be happy to get this heard again quickly. So I'm going to move on from 12 today and on to Board Bill 27.
27 is another simple bill. All we're simply doing is asking the Board of Elections to put on its website what the requirements are to file for office. I mean, these are simple things. And if you want to make this other bill tougher, I'm for it, but let's make it tougher, but it's going to be harder. But we're on 27, that's fine, I get it.
Do you know who operates the Board of Election Commissioners site?
No, no.
The city of St. Louis does.
Okay, well then the city of St. Louis, but it needs to be on their website. All this bill does is ask that it's on their website. It's just that simple.
It's just, you're asking the Board of Election Commissioners to post, and they don't have the ability to do that.
Well, they must have some ability, because whenever there's an election, that all that stuff's posted. Who's running, they post it every day, they change the website. They must have some access to it. Are you telling me
Capizzi, can you speak to that?
you have no access to your own website?
So this is Steve Capizzi from the Board of Elections. So like many organizations in the city of St. Louis, our website is run by the city of St. Louis. We work with the IT department to post things. But we certainly don't, I mean, this was evidenced in the last election, the March election, when the website went down. We don't have any control over the servers or anything like that. So it's not our website. Like, I believe the collector has his own website, but we use the city of St. Louis, just like the Board of Aldermen does, their website. So although we work with the city to post things with their IT department, we don't have any direct control over the website.
Okay, is this something that you are already working on?
In fact, Alderman Ingracia, we have all of the requirements for all the city jobs up. We've been working on that for months. They've all been posted with links. So we worked with the city to do that. We made additional web pages for all the citywide offices that are currently, they are currently posted as of today. As well as, I think that the bill states something about the procedure. We do have some language on that's always been on the website about the procedure to file. In addition, we always throw out that we're available by phone or in person if anybody has any questions about how to file.
No. Do you have any questions on 27? Do you want to hold? Okay.
Could I add one more comment, please?
Sure.
If the bill were to pass in its current form, I mean, kind of like Director Capizzi said, I'm a little curious why you're asking us to do something that we're currently doing anyway, and whether other city departments are subject to the same requirement. But my main concern is that if this were to pass, then within 3 days of a bill becoming final, we're supposed to update the website. I would ask the board to consider, if you want to go in that direction, that we receive some kind of official notification from the city register office, just like we do when there's a call for an election. I'm not sure of the exact process. A bill gets finalized, it gets signed maybe by the mayor, goes to the city register to have an ordinance number assigned to it. I'm not quite sure what the procedure is, but I think if we're going to be mandated to do something within a certain time frame, then there should be some mechanism for some official notification from, I guess, the city register to the election board. This bill has passed pursuant to whatever. Please update your website, or however they want to phrase it. So,
Do you have the...
Hold on, sorry. Alderman Boyd.
Yeah, I'm one of those nerds that hate to over-legislate, and we're all one city. We should be able to call a department and say, hey, would you consider doing X, Y, Z? And that department, if it's in the best interest of the city of St. Louis, I would hope would want to accommodate that. I hate to pass legislation when it's really a policy issue. Gary, is there a way that the Board of Election Commissioners could adopt this as a policy and just do it?
Oh, sure.
Within a reasonable time frame?
absolutely. And that was my concern. I mean, we're happy to do that. We want to provide information to the public. We currently do that, but we can officially adopt a policy by the board that within so many days or within a reasonable period of time. And we're constantly reviewing and updating our website, so we're happy to cooperate in that regard.
So, Alderman Vaccaro, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. So here's the reason for this bill.
Okay, go ahead.
Because when we do change this, which apparently we will, it might be a week with a few other added things, we would just want it to be current so that somebody doesn't go to file. And they just were not made aware that you're going to have to bring this notice of taxes paid due. That was all it was, just to make sure that they maintain the website and keep it up
Right.
to speed.
Let's see, the next election is,
2002, well, they're going to have a special
August.
election, but it's 2 years away. So-
would you be willing to just hold this and give the Board of Election Commissioners an opportunity to create
Sure.
a policy that you will be satisfied with that can achieve the same objective that you're looking for?
Sure.
Rather than we create an actual ordinance directing them to do it?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you want to hold this then?
Oh, well, and yeah, and then if they do initiate a policy, then that's fine. I would like to make sure I see that policy. And then if not, then I would want to bring this back up.
Okay.
And again, it has to do with, as we make changes here, that it's current.
Okay. How quickly do you think you could get a policy to me to share with the committee?
Well, any policy would have to go through our board, and we don't have a current meeting scheduled, but we should, I would think in the next couple weeks to a month. They usually meet once a month. So obviously, the policy would need to be approved by our Board of Commissioners, but, you know,
Do you
we
think
could-
by the end of June?
I think that's a good date. I don't see why the directors couldn't work with the aldermen before that, but we would have to get final approval from our board.
Okay. Are you okay with that time frame, Alderman?
June's fine. And then I would like whoever wants to offer their changes to Board Bill 12, then by next week you would have committee substitutes ready to go into the.
I don't know that I think we should prepare committee substitutes for you. I would be happy to work with you and the Board of Election Commissioners to make sure that the language they feel clarifies what they have questions and concerns about today would be, and then you can come back before us with a committee substitute, and the committee can send suggestions if you have them as well.
Okay, but I would like to do this in a timely manner.
I'm fine with that. I guess, again, Mr. Capizzi, do you feel like within the next week you would be able to work with Alderman Vaccaro to come up with some clarifying language?
Absolutely.
And I've offered to meet with the board council
Okay.
to provide some suggested language, and we can do that within the next week to 10 days.
Alderman Vaccaro, do you want to set a meeting now?
Yeah, I'd like to set it, and I'd like to meet with Greg Daly and our attorney and whoever you want from your office.
Alderman, I'm sorry, I meant for this committee hearing.
I know, well, that's what I'm trying to set up.
Okay, all right, we'll figure that out, but I'm happy to hear it again quickly.
What day do you want to do it?
Is 2 weeks?
I'm fine with 2 weeks.
2 o'clock on Thursday, the 30th?
2 o'clock Tuesday, 30th, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman.
Okay.
Alderman Mohammed,
Yes.
you're recognized on Resolution 33, 37? What did I say, the 30th at 2? Okay.
I got it. 2 p.m. I put in the Kennedy room also.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. Resolution number 37 is requesting the mayor. Resolution number 37 is requesting the honorable mayor to appear before the Board of Aldermen to give a state of the city address. This used to be a common practice in the city of St. Louis. It was called the annual message at one point in time. The last time that the Board of Aldermen and the general public received a state of the city address was in 2006 under then Mayor Francis Slay. So this resolution is asking for a continuance of the mayor, whoever he or she may be in the future, to give a state of the city address on policy, program initiatives, and all of the different concerns facing the city of St. Louis.
Great. I like this idea. Have you spoken to the mayor's office about it?
Yes, I have been in contact with Chief of Staff Conway, and the mayor's representative is also here. They have no objection, I believe, but you can direct questions to
Great.
him if necessary.
I was just curious. Thank you. Could you add me as a co-sponsor on the resolution?
Acknowledge.
Alderman Boyd, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious if someone had actually asked the mayor to come before the Board of Aldermen prior to the resolution.
I don't know,
Okay.
not to my knowledge.
Okay, so this is basically a formal request that the mayor appear, basically.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That she appear before the Board of Aldermen before July 5th, 2019.
And this resolution is specific to the mayor, period, moving forward, not just the current mayor?
Yes.
Okay, all right. No further questions?
Alderman Narayan.
Yes, so just one question. Just so, I like this idea, I think it's great. The only question that I have is there any reason why the legislation lays out to address mayoral priorities for the 2019 and 2020 legislative year rather than the annual year moving forward? Because I like this idea, and I would like it to be a regular thing moving forward, so I just don't want to kind of pigeonhole us into a one-year period rather than opening this up and having this be a tradition moving forward. Is there any reason for just the 19 being in there rather than just annually?
No, it was just a current legislative session in which the resolution was drawn.
Sure.
That's all.
Perfect. Will you add me as a sponsor as well?
Acknowledged.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
No questions.
Noah? Can you come up here for just a moment?
Uh-oh.
First time. Noah Gonzalez with the mayor's office.
Thank you. So since the mayor's office has no objection to this, have you spoken to her about whether or not she would be interested in making this an annual activity versus?
I've not spoken to her about doing this in perpetuity, but she's happy to come. I believe there was a date listed in this bill.
Before July 5th.
Right, before July 5th. She's happy to do that. I can check with her about whether she's comfortable doing it from now until.
Okay, yeah,
She's
if you
out
could
of
just get back to me on that at some
Absolutely.
point. Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to pass Resolution 37 out.
Can I just make a comment real quick? I think this is the first time I've had one of the mayor's legislative assistants testify, so congratulations, Mr. Gonzalez. I move that we pass Resolution 37 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Muhammad. Aye. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Vaccaro. Five votes in favor.
We pass Resolution 37 out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
I don't have to have a motion for adjournment, do I?
You don't.
Yeah. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Did you want to? Thank you. Did you want to?